So today I'm going to help you figure out how do you get in that space of what do you love, what do you do well, what is it that the world needs and people are actually willing to pay you for. That's the combination that we've got to aim for. So why test your market? A lot of the reasons why people throw themselves into something and just keep going and going and going and losing all their money is just sheer blind determination. So the most common mistake I saw was we're coming in and did not have the patience and didn't want to put the time into doing their homework. They had this brilliant idea of what they wanted to do and they just wanted to go out and push it into the marketplace, slam it in there, make sure that somebody's going to buy it. But they were doing what they wanted to do and they wanted to get it out there. So this process here is like, let's actually get ready first, then aim, and then fire. So the most common mistake I saw was not enough focus on the customer, and that was largely because people were either in love with their product, the tech, or the idea. And they are recipes for a failure right from the very, very beginning. So how do you get what you want in life and business? You'll get all you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. Basically, is customer. If we actually focus on providing for the needs of enough customers that are willing to pay for something, then our business will actually be successful. So we need to focus on giving people what they want. So seeking first to understand the customer. Very few people actually do their homework in terms of who the customer is. We've really got to be able to build what we call an avatar that is almost like a personality. We know where they shop, we know what they earn, we know how they make decisions, we understand them to such a degree, but most importantly, we actually understand their challenges and their problems. So a lot of market validation is about connecting with customers in a way that very few people do when they go to start a business. So I'm saying we need to talk to our customers, but if we ask the customer what they want, take back them. So the process is not about asking people what they want, it's about just trying to understand them, because creativity, we have to create on behalf of the customer. The general gist or the general theme from all of these people that are talking a lot like this are just reinforcing about the need to co-create with your customer before you actually build your product. Einstein, pretty smart man, he said if I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about solutions. So the biggest thing I would suggest to you is focus on the problem of the customer. Really, really hone in deep on what's the problem that you're trying to solve for them, what's the challenge that they've got that you're trying to solve for them, and put 90% of your effort into understanding that, because when you understand that, the solution will actually automatically come to you. So what is market validation? By simply engaging with real people and asking the right questions, you can confirm if your idea solves a problem, who your potential buyers are, and ultimately whether or not there's a market for your product. So the primary objective for market validation is product market fit. Product market fit is essentially we've got the right product in front of the right people with the right message. That's when things go, oh yeah, and they take off. Now, I feel like copywriting this term because I've come up with it and I think it's particularly clever. I call it the BHAS, which is we want a big, hungry audience willing to pay. That's actually what we're looking for. So the three criteria is a sense of urgency. They've got something that they want to fix and they need to fix it now. We're really in an environment of instant gratification. If people can't get a solution right now to their problem, they kind of don't want it. Got to be ubiquitous, many people with the problem, and that people are actually willing to pay. Only if you want to actually make some money, of course. Other than that, probably doesn't matter so much. This is borrowed from the Steve Blank stuff again. His biggest, how some people have a mantra. His is get out of the building. Whenever you talk to Steve or you see him in YouTube clips, whatever he's done, get out of the building. Because you're actually not going to learn everything you need to learn about your customer sitting at your laptop, sitting at your desktop. You can do a certain amount of research, but until you're actually in your customer's world, you're not going to get it. And actually, there's a guy called Martin Lindstrom that I follow quite a bit. He's got a book called Small Data. You know how there's all this thing about big data. He goes, there is no substitute for actually immersing yourself in the environment of your customer for a while. So yeah, get out of the building, and often for most people that also requires getting out of their comfort zone, which is one of the reasons why a lot of people don't actually do it. But Ready, Aim, Fire is really about saying, let's break the whole market validation process into 3 steps. The first step is the ready. Now this should only take 2 days. It shouldn't take any longer than that. And it's basically secondary research. So the sort of questions that we're actually answering is who are our customers and where can we find them? What problem are we solving for them? How does our product or solution solve that problem? What's the value proposition that we've got compared to other alternatives on the market? And what frustrates them most about their existing solutions and competitors for what we're doing? So the primary research is actually where we haven't just written our assumptions down, which is what we've done in stage 1. At stage 2, which is the aim, we're testing our assumptions. Are we actually correct in the assumptions that we've made about the customer that we're trying to target? The primary research, sometimes you can do it for free, sometimes there's a cost. The rule of thumb is whatever it is that you're thinking of building, you should put probably 5% of your overall build cost into this stage of research and development. Interviews are the very best way, one-on-one interviews, either by phone or in person. Phone is often just as good as person. The people like Rob Adams say that unless you've actually interviewed 100 of your potential audience, you don't have a fair idea. If you actually can't find your customers and get in touch with them at that personal level, that tells you straight up your sales and marketing is going to be really difficult, because you don't know how to find them, you don't know how to reach them. So if you can find 100 people potentially to talk to one-on-one first up, then you're also going, okay, and I can replicate this and scale this when it comes to actually doing my sales and marketing. So it's doing a double test there. And when we're doing interviews as well, in an interview situation versus a sort of an online survey or something like that, you can apply tools like the 5 whys. Who's heard of the 5 whys? You know, it's that annoying little thing that kids do. You know, so I don't like this product over here. Why don't you like that product over there? Because it's brown. Why don't you like that it's brown? You know, so the why, digging deeper. If you're not in an interview situation with a potential customer, you can't dig into those areas to get the level of depth that you're looking for. Some of the other ways that I test my assumptions there is running low-cost ads and trying pre-sales and that sort of thing as well. So I'm seeing if there's any response to those. So by the time we've done 100 interviews and it's looking pretty good, then we go, okay, now we kind of know the things that are important to our customer. We know what they're looking for. We know where they are. We know what they're willing to pay because we've done all of our homework. So then we can actually go to the next stage, which is we actually build a minimum viable product. If we haven't got all of those questions answered by the time we've done 100 interviews, what do we do?
Yeah.
Kill it. Kill it. That aim stage is a powerful stage to actually get your first customers on board. Here's the sort of stuff that good investors will sort of be asking, and this is another reason why to do the market validation. They'll be talking with how many potential customers have you spoken with? How did you find them? How much did it cost to reach them? What percentage of them were interested? What's the impact or cost of the problem you were solving for them, and what percentage would definitely buy? Because that's actually what an investor is looking for. It's, are people going to buy this thing? Okay, so a few of my favourite other ways to test market. I mentioned at the start that I'm inherently lazy, so sometimes it's not necessarily worth going through a whole market validation process. If you've got something decent at stake, I recommend that you do, but sometimes we're actually just wanting to do a quick retest, just to see if something's worth actually putting any more time into. So a couple of the things I've done are social media posts and ads. If I'm thinking, oh, actually, I think I might build a product around this, I might write an article or something about it and see how well it goes. And then if it doesn't go that well, then I'll go, yeah, and drop it. Typeform, I mentioned before about I've just done a market validation process on the CEO forum. I just used a Typeform survey to do that, and I think it took about 12 minutes for somebody to actually complete it. I had 70 CEOs of companies with up to 100 staff complete it. That were all, yeah, this sounds like a good idea, but there was no urgency. So I think it would have gone it would have worked, but I probably would have had to spend 2 years building it, and I couldn't be bothered doing that. So this duck soup actually allows me to target the specific audience that I either want to connect with or send a message to. And it costs me $25 a month, and I can basically send connection requests out with personalised messages, 250 of them a day. Keyword search tools. You know, this is part of your primary research in the first stage of really is you should always be looking at what's the search volumes on the sort of stuff that you're looking for. If there's not people looking, it's going to be pretty hard to get their attention and to find them. And as Scott said before, the crowdfunding platforms are often a good way of testing something as well, seeing if it's going to go. If you want to learn more, there's a few resources here. If you're trying to build a huge company, big aspirations and whatever else, I suggest you go to the 4 Steps to the Epiphany by Steve Blank, which is the guy I spoke about before. It's the most in-depth customer validation and market validation process I've come across. If You Build It, Will They Come by Rob Adams is not quite so intense, and it's a nice, sensible one for a lot of people to use. And also a couple of other tools that I really, really like are the business model generation and the business model canvas and the customer empathy map, which you can all find with Eric Ries's Lean Startup stuff and Alexander Osterwalder. All of those resources are some really good YouTube clips, books, and the templates are actually freely available online as well. And I think you can get access to the slides if you want those resources. But you've got my contact details, so if anybody wants a copy of the slides, if you can't get them otherwise, just contact me. So this is the business model canvas that I spoke about. It's basically a business planning template, which is a one-page template. And the way we used to use it was we'd do a really big piece of paper that we'd stick up on the wall. And the idea is that you have post-it notes or sticky notes, and you put your strategies or your ideas and post-it notes on there. And as you do your research, you know, your assumptions change, what your strategy was changes. So it's kind of like a dynamic business planning template that just keeps changing. This is part of it, and this comes back to the customer empathy. And in fact, it's called the customer empathy map. So this is a really nice guideline to help you when you're going out and doing the interviews, to help you understand what are the things I should be looking for in terms of how a customer thinks, fears, hears, feels, what are they seeing, what's their pain, what's their gain. So it gives you an idea of what are the things you should be looking for. I'll leave that up for a minute because there's a couple of pictures being taken. Cool. This here does me bonkers, but as I said, if you actually want to go into the full intense one, this is the customer development process of Steve Blank. I'm going to move on because that does my head in. Just to reinforce and see if there's anything that you've actually got a value out of it. Does anybody want to share one of their takeaways from today?
Talk to potential customers.
Yeah, that's the biggest one, so I'm pleased you've got that.
It's the hardest one too.
It is the hardest one, yeah. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah?
I haven't really thought much about the cost it takes to find those customers initially. You know, it's kind of like, oh, I know the idea of like what my customer is or who my customer is, and you know, certain ways to find them, but finding like a big quantity of those customers, how hard is it to find that specific demographic and what's the cost?
It's huge. I mean, your customer acquisition cost can kill an idea. So if you're finding it really, really tough to find your 100 people, then that's a sign that you're going to find it really hard to sell to 100 people. Definitely. Yeah. One more?
Can I add? I'll support Lisa in what she said. That there's a couple of things. The Ready, Aim, Fire works and should be what you do, particularly if you ever do hardware, so you don't want to get hardware wrong. In software, there is a case to actually go ready, fire, and then readjust your aim. And that's got to do with shipping early. Instagram was a case of ready, fire, and readjusting their aim.
They did actually include some customers before they did that.
Yeah, well, they launched Bourbon. Instagram was originally called Bourbon. They launched it to their user bases, and it was the early customer that told them, we hate most of the app, but this thing with the photo filters, that's kind of nice. So they threw out Instagram was originally going to be like a whole social media platform. 90% of that first product that they shipped, which is the fire part, actually failed. And then they readjusted their aim to the 10% that worked. So if you've launched something, and you may find that your customers, you have to sift through what people are engaging with.
Yeah. Generally, as a rule of thumb, if you do the ready, aim, fire, you will reduce the number of pivots and the amount of time it takes. So I say, regardless of what it is, do the ready, aim, fire. The aim might be a really small aim. If you've not got a lot to lose by building your minimal viable product, then maybe you don't need to put as much time and effort into it. So it really comes down to what's the risk and how much effort do we need. If it's a big risk, we need to get this even more right. If we're not risking much, then, just some surface stuff is actually going to be okay. So that's the general rule of thumb. And that's me. There's all of my contact details. So if there's any questions that you've got or you want to access any of the resources that I've spoken about, feel free to drop me a line and stay in touch. That's all I've got for today, folks.